Have you ever noticed that strange, painful pattern in your life? The one where the harder you try to earn someone's respect, a partner, a friend, a colleague, even a parent, the more they seem to take you for granted. That feeling when you give and give, compromise and accommodate, yet somehow the respect you desperately seek remains just out of reach. You watch others who seem to command respect effortlessly. They don't bend over backwards. They don't exhaust themselves trying to please. Yet people listen when they speak. Their boundaries are honored. Their presence is acknowledged. And you wonder, what do they have that I don't? The answer is both simpler and more profound than you might imagine. There's an invisible force at work in every human interaction, a hidden principle that determines whether you'll be respected or disregarded, valued or overlooked. This force isn't about your achievements, your kindness, your intelligence, or even your social skills. It's something far more fundamental. Here's the paradox that's silently shaping your entire life. The very act of chasing respect, of seeking validation outside yourself, is precisely what prevents you from receiving it. The endless pursuit of external approval creates an energy that pushes away the very thing you're trying to attract. The truth that will transform everything, if you truly understand it, is this: until you respect yourself, nobody else will. This isn't just a motivational quote. It's a psychological law that governs every relationship in your life, one that explains why all your efforts to earn respect might be taking you further from what you truly seek. This painful dynamic shows up everywhere, in relationships where you compromise your needs yet remain unappreciated, in workplaces where your extra efforts go unnoticed while others who do less receive recognition, in friendships where your loyalty is expected rather than valued. The pattern is devastating precisely because it defies logic. You've been taught that respect must be earned through giving, through proving your worth, through making yourself useful or indispensable to others, yet somehow the equation never balances. Your generosity doesn't convert to respect. Your sacrifices don't translate to recognition. Instead, you're left with that hollow ache of invisibility, that sinking feeling when you realize you've once again been taken for granted. The quiet devastation of showing up fully for someone who barely acknowledges your presence. The bewilderment when your boundaries are crossed as if they don't exist. Your frustration makes perfect sense. The confusion that comes from playing by the rules yet losing the game. The hurt that accumulates with each instance of disregard. The creeping resentment that follows. Then the guilt for feeling resentful when you're trying so hard to be good, to be worthy, to be enough. You might even blame yourself. Perhaps you're not doing enough. Perhaps there's something inherently undeserving about you. Perhaps respect is simply a currency that will always remain scarce in your life. But what if none of that is true? What if there's a hidden psychological principle at work, one that explains why all your efforts to earn respect are actually moving you further from receiving it? What if this principle, once understood, could transform not just how others treat you, but the entire foundation of your relationship with yourself? The universal pattern at play is both ancient and pervasive. We seek externally what can only be generated from within. This seeking creates a fundamental misalignment, an energetic contradiction that subtly shapes every interaction you have. Carl Jung, the pioneering psychologist, observed a profound truth about human psychology. We unconsciously project our inner relationship with ourselves onto the external world. The way you treat yourself, the respect you do or don't hold for your own boundaries, needs, and worth, becomes the invisible template for how others treat you. This turns conventional wisdom on its head. Society teaches that respect is something you earn through achievement, through pleasing others, through conforming to expectations. Work hard enough, sacrifice enough, prove yourself enough, and eventually respect will follow. But the deeper psychological reality reveals something entirely different. Respect isn't primarily earned through external actions. It's embodied as an internal state that others instinctively recognize and respond to. Think of respect as an energy field that emanates from within you. This field is generated not by what you do, but by how you relate to yourself. When this field is strong, when your self-respect is intact, it creates an invisible boundary that others naturally honor. When this field is weak or fragmented, when you've compromised your self-respect, that boundary becomes permeable, inviting disregard. Here's where this understanding becomes uncomfortable yet transformative. You might be unconsciously undermining your own worth. Each time you abandon your own needs to please others. Each time you accept treatment that diminishes you. Each time you compromise your truth to avoid conflict. You're sending a powerful signal to both yourself and others about what you believe you deserve. The most painful aspect of this pattern is its hidden nature. You're likely engaging in subtle forms of self-abandonment without even realizing it, then wondering why others don't value what you yourself are unwittingly devaluing. We've been conditioned to believe in a respect hierarchy, a sequence where achievement comes first, followed by recognition, and finally, respect. Climb the ladder high enough, perform well enough, please others thoroughly enough, and eventually, you'll earn the respect you crave. This hierarchy has been embedded in your psyche since childhood, yet it fundamentally misunderstands how respect actually operates in human psychology. The counterintuitive truth is that self-respect precedes all external validation. It's not the end result of a long journey of proving yourself. It's the essential foundation from which all genuine respect flows. This reversal changes everything about how you navigate your relationships and your life. Consider the stark contrast between people-pleasing behaviors and a genuine respect-commanding presence. The people-pleaser constantly adjusts their boundaries, opinions, and needs based on what they think others want. They apologize excessively, say yes when they mean no, and absorb blame that isn't theirs. The entire orientation is outward, seeking approval from sources that can never provide lasting validation. The person who naturally commands respect operates differently. Their presence has a quality of groundedness. They speak their truth without apology, yet without aggression. They maintain boundaries with quiet certainty. They listen deeply to others precisely because they've learned to listen to themselves. Ask yourself honestly, which description more closely resembles your approach to relationships? When you're with others, are you primarily focused on earning their approval or expressing your authentic self? When faced with potential disapproval, do you abandon your own truth or stand firmly in it? The way you answer these questions reveals whether you're operating from external validation or internal authority. But understanding self-respect intellectually is not the same as embodying it. To truly transform your experience, you need to grasp what authentic self-respect actually is, not as a concept, but as a lived reality. And this requires venturing deeper into the psychology of how you relate to yourself at the most fundamental level. To truly understand self-respect, we need to venture into the profound insights of Jungian psychology. Carl Jung identified 3 critical elements of our psyche that directly impact our capacity for genuine self-respect: individuation, the shadow, and the relationship between self and ego. Individuation is Jung's term for the lifelong process of becoming psychologically whole, integrating all aspects of your personality into a unified, authentic self. The shadow represents those parts of yourself you've rejected, denied, or hidden. Your anger, vulnerability, power, neediness, or any quality deemed unacceptable by your family, culture, or yourself. And the self, distinct from the ego, your conscious identity, represents the totality of your psyche, both conscious and unconscious. When your self-concept is fragmented, when you've disowned crucial parts of yourself, genuine self-respect becomes impossible. How can you fully respect yourself when you're actively rejecting significant aspects of who you are? This inner division creates a foundation of self-betrayal that undermines any attempt to build authentic self-respect. Imagine your psyche as a vast house with many rooms. Self-respect isn't about keeping only the presentable rooms clean while locking away the messy ones. It's about acknowledging that every room, from the brightest to the darkest, belongs to you. True self-respect comes from claiming ownership of the entire house, not just the parts you're comfortable showing to guests. This differs dramatically from conventional understandings of self-respect. It isn't arrogance or inflated self-importance. nor is it the fragile confidence that collapses under criticism. Authentic self-respect is the natural outcome of internal alignment and psychological wholeness, honoring the full spectrum of who you are, while taking responsibility for how you express these elements. Here lies the crucial distinction between surface-level self-esteem and deep self-respect. Surface self-esteem depends on external achievements, appearance, social approval, and comparison with others. It rises and falls with circumstances and requires constant maintenance. It's conditional. I respect myself because I am successful, attractive, liked. Deep self-respect, by contrast, emerges from self-knowledge, internal integrity, and the integration of all aspects of your being, including your shadow. It's unconditional. I respect myself because I am whole, authentic, and accountable for all of who I am. This form of self-respect becomes an unshakable foundation precisely because it doesn't depend on external validation or selective self-acknowledgement. Beneath the surface patterns of people-pleasing and validation-seeking lies a deeper psychological wound, one that often forms in childhood and continues to shape your adult relationships. The primal fear of abandonment and rejection. This fear doesn't operate at the conscious level. It functions as an emotional undercurrent, silently guiding your decisions and reactions. In early development, your survival literally depended on maintaining a connection with caregivers. Your young psyche learned to adapt to this reality, often by suppressing authentic self-expression when it threatened attachment. If expressing certain emotions, needs, or aspects of yourself resulted in withdrawal of love or approval, you learned to hide these parts away. The message internalized, these parts of me are unacceptable and threaten my connection to others. This childhood conditioning directly creates adult patterns of self-abandonment. The child who learned to suppress anger to keep peace now becomes the adult who cannot set boundaries. The child who hid vulnerability to avoid ridicule becomes the adult who cannot ask for help. The child who buried their ambition to avoid threatening others becomes the adult who diminishes their achievements. These unintegrated shadow aspects, the disowned parts of yourself, create an internal civil war that makes authentic self-respect impossible. One part of you longs to express your truth, while another part, driven by ancient fear, silences it. One part needs recognition, while another part sabotages opportunities to be seen. This fragmentation drains your psychological energy and undermines your integrity. The cost of continued self-abandonment is devastating, not just in how others treat you, but in your relationship with yourself. Each act of self-betrayal, each time you say yes when you mean no, each time you swallow your truth to keep the peace, each time you diminish your light to make others comfortable, creates a fracture in your psychological integrity. These fractures accumulate over time, creating a profound disconnection from your authentic self. This disconnection manifests as chronic dissatisfaction, persistent anxiety, emotional exhaustion, and a pervasive sense that something essential is missing from your life. Because something is missing, your complete, integrated self. Shadow integration, the process of reclaiming and honoring these disowned aspects of yourself, isn't just a psychological luxury, it's the necessary foundation for genuine self-respect. Until you can acknowledge and accept all of who you are, including the parts that feel dangerous, shameful, or unworthy, your self-respect will remain conditional, fragmented, and ultimately insufficient to generate the respect you desire from others. The insights we've explored so far reveal the hidden psychological dynamics that have been shaping your experience of respect, both from yourself and others. These principles represent the foundation of personal transformation that many spend years, even decades, searching for. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. Now that we understand the root causes of why respect has been elusive, let's explore the practical path toward authentic self-respect. This next section will reveal the specific internal shifts and daily practices that allow you to embody genuine self-respect, not as a temporary state, but as your natural way of being in the world. The path toward authentic self-respect begins with a fundamental shift in orientation, from seeking validation externally to cultivating it internally. This isn't just a conceptual shift, but a practical one, embodied through specific practices and perspectives that gradually transform your relationship with yourself. The first essential practice is boundary setting, not as a defensive measure, but as a profound act of self-honoring. Boundaries are statements of self-respect that communicate, "This is who I am, this is what I need, this is how I need to be treated." They define the sacred territory of your psychological space and establish the standards for how others may engage with you. Setting boundaries begins with recognizing your inherent right to have them, not because you've earned this right, but because it's intrinsic to your humanity. This recognition alone can be revolutionary for those who've spent their lives believing their needs were secondary or optional. The inner work required for authentic self-respect goes beyond boundary setting. It demands shadow integration, the gradual reclaiming of disowned aspects of yourself. Start by identifying one quality you've rejected in yourself. Perhaps your anger, vulnerability, power, or need for recognition. Rather than continuing to suppress this aspect, become curious about it. What wisdom might it hold? What needs might it be expressing? How might accepting it make you more whole? This process requires radical self-honesty, not the harsh self-criticism that masquerades as honesty, but the compassionate willingness to see yourself clearly, your patterns, your fears, your authentic desires. This honesty creates the foundation for genuine change rather than temporary behavioral modifications. Courage is equally essential, the willingness to experience discomfort as you challenge lifelong patterns. The courage to disappoint others rather than betray yourself. The courage to speak your truth even when silence feels safer. This isn't about being fearless, it's about honoring yourself despite your fear. Be wary of hollow self-affirmations that attempt to bypass this deeper work. Repeatedly telling yourself, "I am worthy," while continuing to abandon your boundaries, creates internal cognitive dissonance rather than genuine self-respect. True transformation emerges not from positive self-talk alone, but from the consistent practice of self-honoring choices. As you begin to honor your own experience, to trust your perceptions, validate your emotions, and respect your needs, a subtle shift occurs in your energetic presence. Your words align with your actions. Your yes becomes meaningful because your no is equally honored. Your authenticity becomes palpable to others. As you continue integrating previously disowned aspects of yourself, you'll notice a growing sense of internal cohesion. The energy once spent maintaining inner divisions becomes available as personal power. This isn't power over others, but power from within, the natural authority that emerges from psychological wholeness. When you begin setting boundaries and reclaiming your authentic self, something predictable yet challenging occurs. Resistance arises both from within yourself and from those around you. This resistance isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong, quite the opposite. It signals that you're disrupting patterns that have been in place for years, perhaps decades. The fear that emerges when you first stand in your truth can be overwhelming. The body tightens, the throat constricts, the mind races with worst-case scenarios. This physiological response makes perfect sense. You're challenging neural pathways that were formed specifically to keep you safe through connection, even at the cost of your authenticity. These long-standing patterns weren't created overnight, and they won't transform overnight either. Each time you honor yourself in a new way, you're literally rewiring your nervous system, creating new pathways that eventually become your default response. This rewiring process requires patience and self-compassion. Specific forms of resistance will appear with predictable regularity. The fear of rejection whispers that if you express your true needs, you'll end up alone. Guilt suggests that prioritizing yourself is selfish rather than necessary. Uncertainty creates doubt about whether you deserve what you're asking for. Each of these resistances has roots in your earliest experiences of conditional love and belonging. Your struggle with these feelings is completely natural. Everyone who undertakes this journey encounters internal resistance. The path to self-respect isn't about avoiding these feelings. It's about continuing to honor yourself despite them. This isn't easy, but it is transformative. The discomfort you experience isn't a warning sign telling you to retreat back into old patterns. It's a growing pain, the natural sensation of expansion beyond familiar limitations. Just as physical muscles must experience the tension of resistance to grow stronger, your psychological boundaries must withstand the discomfort of change to become robust. When this discomfort arises, remind yourself this feeling doesn't mean I'm doing something wrong. It means I'm doing something new, something my system hasn't yet learned is safe. With each experience of honoring yourself through discomfort, the pathway becomes clearer, the resistance lessens, and your capacity for authentic self-respect expands. Despite the challenges of this journey, there's an empowering truth at its core. You possess complete agency in this transformation process. No matter what conditioning shaped your past, no matter how long you've abandoned yourself, the power to change this pattern remains fully within your hands. This isn't motivational fantasy, it's psychological reality. Self-respect isn't a distant destination requiring years of arduous effort to reach. It's a choice available to you in every moment, with every interaction, with every you've struggled to maintain, or one moment when you chose self-respect despite discomfort. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to begin their own journey. We're all at different stages of this same path, and your insights create ripples of transformation far beyond what you might imagine. In our next video, we'll explore how to maintain your newly established self-respect when facing the most challenging relationships in your life, those with people who've become accustomed to your self-abandonment and may resist your transformation. This information is essential for protecting your emerging self-respect from the unconscious pushback you'll inevitably encounter. You've begun this journey now, and you can't stop here, not when the most crucial tests and deepest rewards lie just ahead. Remember, until you respect yourself, nobody else will. But when you truly honor your own worth, you don't just transform how others treat you, you transform how you experience your entire existence. Self-respect isn't just about getting better treatment, it's about becoming whole again.